podcast. Welcome, Bout Betters. Welcome to Coffee Talk with the Bout Better, where we just decided to rant or talk and discuss about any topic that might be relevant to you, that might be on YouTube, that may not be on YouTube. And as you could see today, we are going to be discussing shortly and briefly something that is highly controversial on the internet, something that a lot of men may be aware of, as well as women are angry about, and men might be shameful about. And yes, we are going to talk about passport bros, mail order brides, or something else. So welcome, Bout Betters. Welcome to MMA Coffee Talk. Yes, we will indeed be covering MMA later this evening, later today. We will have some picks for you, but this is Coffee Talk with Bout Better. Oh man, I didn't have my theme music on as I was mentioning this stuff. So yes, so welcome back to Coffee Talk with the Bout Better. As you see, we are going to discuss the passport bros, hated on the internet, very controversial sort of activity, mail order brides, which have been going on for decades. Back in the print era, mail order brides began, and even prior to that. And or are you going to be having your passport and actually engaging somewhere else? Because there are differences to all these things. So we're just going to be talking about these topics here because it is Coffee Talk with the Bout Better. Again, I really don't encourage, or I'm not promoting any of these things. We're just here to talk about it. And that is the whole purpose of Coffee Talk with the Bout Better. So welcome, Bout Betters. Let me see if I'm going live here. Yeah, the stream has been working. Everything's been working really good lately. So yes, Coffee Talk with Bout Better. No one's in the chat yet, but that's okay. We're going to briefly go over some of these things here, guys and gals. So there's probably more guys here than not. So you might have heard of the whole passport bros thing. It really started off more as an African American movement of African American men who were, shall I just say, frustrated or were not committed to having relationships with American women here in the United States. So they went on, have some coffee, you'll feel better, people. So they went on with their passports to go to various countries to find romance, to possibly engage in a short-term relationship, to find companionship, to find potentially love, as I mentioned, romance earlier, and to potentially find a bride. Of course, a lot of this, I think, degraded and really just denigrated to the lowest common factor, which was something else, right? Because it didn't turn into a male bride relationship, and it didn't pan out the way most of these gentlemen thought that it would pan out. So that's really where the passport bros sort of movement began. And I think now it's been co-opted by any man that travels for any of those purposes, for the purposes of meeting a woman abroad in various countries for various outcomes, right? Or at least potential outcomes. So that's really created, I think there are problems on both sides, and there are benefits to things on the sides, because let's just be honest, that's one of the things, or the other things that someone is looking for, is sort of a friends with benefits relationship. And that's not unheard of here in the States, right? Like, it isn't unheard of, and a lot of women do not want to be part of a friends with benefits relationship. It's not something that's sought after by most women, and most men will not dictate or explicate that that's indeed what they want. I'm not an expert in relationships here. I have my own problems with relationships, but what I do know is traveling. I do have traveled to numerous countries that are sought after, or that many of the passport bros, people looking for a male bride, looking for companionship, and or something else, have engaged in. So I've been to those countries and got to see firsthand what it goes on, right? So Yeah, passport. Like with all of these, and I think what is important, and what's most important, of course, is safety. And safety not only for you but also for the women that you engage in, because a lot of this behavior can be and has been. That's why there are sex trafficking laws, is because a lot of these behaviors can seem as exploitative and dangerous, right? Dangerous for both people involved, exploitative for both people involved. Many people seeking something end up getting abused and used and victimized, right, via criminals in this effort to become or to be a passport bro, to find a mail order bride, or something else, right? So the main thing is safety. And your safety cannot be assured because you're going to a foreign land and you don't know who you're dealing with, right? You don't know, you're out there seeking for something that potentially can be a risk, right? So I'm not going to weigh out on what is going to be riskiest in terms of a tier here. Is it riskier just to be a passport bro, hit the clubs, meet women, find a companion, or is it riskier to get on Tinder, start a conversation, start an email campaign, get on the phone with somebody abroad, establish sort of a long-term communicative channel or relationship, and then potentially meet that person? Or is it better, or I shouldn't say better, or are you engaged in something else, right? Are you getting your passport and then you're really just engaged in something else? I'm going to say that most men truly and genuinely are engaged in the something else. And that raises a lot of alarms. It really becomes, adds to the danger, both on your part as well as the person that you're engaged with's part. And truly may not be healthy both to you in terms of your character, your heart, and what you want out of relationships, and dangerous in terms of what you're exposing yourself to. Because once you're in that something else realm, you're really opening yourself up to being robbed, right? Money being taken from you, you being accosted or assaulted, right? And you going on the wrong side of the law, which happens quite a bit, because in these countries, as a tourist, you do have some preferred status. Yes, you are viewed as important to the economy, and they want you to enjoy yourself and to do what you can. But the moment you start to venture into the something else, and you start to put yourself into the more seedy, darker, illicit side of the culture of what's being offered there, the police protection fades. They're going to not arrest you necessarily all the time. They're going to still treat you a little better because you are a foreigner, you do have some money, but there is going to be that instance where you're not going to be receive the full protection of the authorities because you are engaged in an illicit activity, or an activity, if it is licit, right? It could be licit, like in some countries, for example, let's say Colombia and or Costa Rica, where it is Costa Rica, where it isn't completely legal, but partially legal. In Costa Rica, it is legal. For example, police will allow it to sort of go on, although those that participate in that something else are looked down upon, right? And so when you get into a complicated situation, you're not going to receive the protections that you thought that you would receive. So all of these have to have some caution, and I think, like everything else on the internet and YouTube, a lot of the passport bros and a lot of these internets are glorifying and romanticizing and providing you with a false sense of security and a false sense of what your outcomes are going to be with their YouTube presentations and with their YouTube channels. I think, again, they're mainly engaged in something else, and it really isn't somebody that is sincerely looking for a genuine bride, looking for potentially a mail order bride, right? Somebody to have a long-term relationship with, or a long-distance relationship. I think everyone falls and everything almost starts and finishes almost in that something else. That's not to be said that you can't find romance and a genuine relationship with someone abroad, right? It is possible. Many men, especially like I know in Canada as well as in Europe, there are a lot of these sort of. It sort of begins. I wouldn't say as it sort of begins as a passport, bro. Many men go to these countries. They engage with a partner or with somebody that they find suitable, sort of in a friends with benefits relationship for the time that they are vacationing in their spot. They go to tourist areas with these people, they have dinner with these people, the person stays with them, cooks, cleans, is their tour guide, is their translator, is their confidant, is that friend with benefits. And then later on, they continue a relationship with that person, and that relationship eventually builds into something that might be considered more of a potential bride, where they are brought to the person's native country and spend some time together, and then a relationship ensues that it becomes more permanent. And essentially, it is almost a combination of these three that actually does become a bride, and it does occur. How often it happens is really a matter of argument. I would say it's not rare, because I've known many men, both here in the States as well as in Canada, and some Europeans that are comfortable and have married their companion that they met abroad. And then I've met a bunch, as well as other sort of expats and men that visit and consistently engage with having sort of a long-term, long-distance relationship with the woman in their respective country, right? And then, of course, I've met plenty of people and plenty of men that were engaged in that something else. So with all of these, there has to be a measure of security, because there is no real security. A lot of these men that even find them as brides and get married in this effort, a lot of times after a year or two, once the women have their documents, they could find themselves being sued for their assets. They could be robbed of their assets. They could be divorced, right? And then have to pay support to these people. In some instances, a lot of times it isn't, because a lot of these mail order brides and these when you have that kind of relationship and you marry a foreigner, there are constrictions and restraints on your legal rights in terms of suing for alimony, palimony, or et cetera, for mainly alimony, and seizing of one's assets when you are a recent wife, right? Like you were married before you were a citizen. So it really changes the legality status for the person that you're bringing over. So again, there are risks to all of this. And I think the main thing for you as a gentleman, or you as a person, is what I would put first, is to know what your expectations are, as always, in terms of safety, and just know what your expectations are. Are you there just to have fun, right? Are you there? Are you comfortable? And are you looking for somebody to meet and start a relationship with, whether long distance and or for a future long distance relationship that you could eventually marry? Or are you there just for quick satisfaction and to comfort yourself and just want that, right? Like that is the key. Just knowing what you want and is going to help you, and it's going to help you be safe. It's going to help you, because then you're going to prepare, right? You're going to be able to better prepare for every instance, right? Both emotionally and or strategically, right? Because there are things that you might do differently for one instance or one woman than another, right? For someone that you were there just for courtship and for something very quick, short term, for example, you may not want that person going to your hotel room, right? You may not want that person to know where you're staying, right? So you need to plan for that, right? Someone that you might have a longer term relationship, you still, for example, may want to have something prepared for yourself, and then seek something else that is more public, or an area that is more suitable for that type of relationship, and or if you're a passport bro, depending if and we're saying here that you're seeking a relationship, right? Again, it's still important to take precautions and really knowing what you want for yourself, right? That is more key, because then you prepare everything financially for yourself. You prepare to provide yourself a safe context for your activities, and then you could plan accordingly, right? You could say, okay, I met this person, I really dig them, I'm going to spend time with them. Let's go on these certain tours and events. They're going to come to dinner with me, where they're going to come to brunch. I'm going to exchange my personal information with them. You might send them money when you return to your respective country, and you maintain an open relationship that potentially could develop into something more long term. Again, this is all dependent, and you have to be aware going in, right? Because otherwise, you're just sort of at a car lot or at a store, and you're window shopping, right? You're window shopping. You may not know what you want because you already have the nice shoes, you already have the fancy designer label, but you might want to buy the designer label, or you're going to buy just the basic Levi's jeans, or you're going, luxury, right? Or are you going to go to Walmart, right? Like, I hate to put it in these terms, but you having realistic expectations and boundaries, right? Like, because other people will have boundaries as well, but you need to set boundaries for yourself based on your expectations. And I think a lot of men don't do this, and what happens really is they engage more in that something else more often than not, where they are exhausting a lot of income in addition to potentially setting themselves up for being exploited themselves, or victimized, I should say. They're being robbed, and or even facing legal consequences in that nation or their return nation. Because some nations, for example, here, it was a good thing that it happened here. And I recall a long time ago, there were a lot of men that were going to both Thailand, Vietnam, and to Southeast Asia that were engaging in some very exploitative behaviors and were getting away with it because those countries did not criminalize it. It wasn't until very recently that our country, that the U.S., along with, in partnership with these countries like Thailand, like Laos, like Vietnam, prevented this behavior, prevented this from happening. And let's see, wait. Illinois Bigfoot, hey, I'm just loading, just kidding. I don't know what you're kidding about, Illinois Bigfoot. I can't see what you put out there, but Illinois Bigfoot, again, this is a discussion. We're having a discussion. Let me get some coffee, you'll feel better. I need to warm up my coffee, guys. I'll be right back. Guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Get some coffee, you'll feel better. Have some coffee, you'll feel better. I'm a little tired still. I've been taking a sleeping agent, and sometimes it has like this residual effects. But I didn't want this, and I don't want this to be a how-to. But I definitely want to let people know that you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your identity, right? Which means your passport and your papers, documents, your banking information, your banking cards, your credit cards, as well as your well-being, right? As well as your person, your body. So being prepared and having those elements or these things taken care of and secure is very important, right? That's key, right? And I'm trying to avoid this to getting a how-to, because there's definitely how-tos to each. And I would say that, seeking a mail order bride and or finding romance for, I would say, longer term, for a long distance to potential bride, is a lot more challenging than the something else. Because something else is literally just window shopping. There's more likely areas and clubs. You go to most clubs, and what's there is on the menu, And there, you just have to be careful of what you're engaging in. Make sure you discuss everything right. Again, I don't want to get into the how tos, but there, your what's on what you see is what you get, and what's on the menu is there and discussed, right? Like that's easy. I think it's the harder part, the real genuine person seeking romance and or seeking that tourist ad companionship, right? Where you're not just wanting to be a tourist, you want to find that friend with benefits that is your companion, again, that is going to be able to translate for you, that is going to be your tour guide, and that is going to be your companion at dinner, breakfast, and lunch, on these boats, on these trips up to the mountains, all these really cool places. And then the evening, they're going to be at dinner and dancing and something else, right? So, that's ideal for most people, right? For most men, I think that's what they're looking for. And there are measure things that you have to be careful there, but that might be safer because there's more of a history, right? You're going to have a history with that person, and it doesn't completely absolve you and save you from potential problems. But having that relationship and establishing that prior to you getting there is helpful, right? It's a lot more helpful, and there are a lot of means and a lot of avenues and venues and arenas to accomplish that. So I sort of recommend venturing there prior, getting evidence of the person is who they say they are. Hopefully that they're being honest and genuine about what their intentions are as well. Like a lot of times they'll let you know if they have children, if they're working. A good thing a lot of times is to, once you're there, is to go to their job. You could prove a lot of things of what the person and their honesty. If they told you, okay, I work at this store, then you're there. You go to, as a test to them, you go to that store, right? You go and you see them. And again, I don't want to get it too much in the how-to. I'm delving too much in the how-to and not necessarily in the real discussion. So yeah, so safety is number one. Let's get back to safety. Expectations, number two, right? Knowing your expectation. And then third is sort of what your execution or your follow-through might be. And here's where it gets really dicey, is in that execution. Because it actually falls on one and two, right? Your execution has to be dependent on your safety and what your expectations are. And knowing who you're dealing with, it is important at that point, right? So if you have any doubts about the person whatsoever, even when you're engaged in the window shopping for something else, avoid it, right? Just bail. You're not obligated to do anything with these people, and do not let the little head think for your big head. And I think too many men do this. I think that it's very easy just here for a short reward and a short affirmation, really make yourself not only vulnerable, but open yourself up to a lot of problems, both legally, emotionally, and physically, and sometimes even your health. Right? You cannot fool yourself into thinking that you are dominating or that you're actually in full control of these relationships, because that's the biggest mistake I see these passport bros and the people that go to other countries, when they think of like, okay, I'm going over there because I'm going to get a submissive woman and I'm seeking a submissive woman. And they think that they're in that dominant role, but in reality, you're not. You're a foreigner in a different country. You're looking and going to someone else to provide something for you, right? You do not hold any of the cards except the money, right? The money and the potential for money in a relationship that might be based on the exchange of money and or safety for that person, right? Or a green card. We never know. But I think that's the biggest misnomer and the biggest mistake, as well as just the biggest expectation that men assume when they go abroad, is that they are going to be the dominator in the relationship. They assume that because they are paying for the activities, they're paying for the food, paying for the residence, paying for someone's time, et cetera, that they are in dominance and they are in control of the situation. And that is farthest from the truth. In fact, it's so illusory, it's so It's just so it's so delusional that it becomes dangerous, right? So the action, that third part, has to be always thought out with in light of the first two, of what your expectations are and your safety, right? Don't let just your because you can have a good time yourself, and I think that's the biggest problem. And as for these passport bros, as well as people looking for a mail order bride, as well as something else, what they miss, because they're so focused on those three, they're so focused on being a gigolo, they're so focused on what's up, Leon Hashtag. How's it going? It was good. Hey, Leon, I looked into the natives there in Norway, and it came up as a different native or indigenous. Was it the Maui? 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 I forgot what it's called. Maya? Mai? MAI? Yeah, and it was very interesting. I didn't get too much into it, but apparently in Norway, they are the only recognized indigenous population in all of Europe, not just Norway, but all of Europe. It seemed a little controversial, and I could talk about that on a different time. We have that same issue in Puerto Rico, for example, that we have a native population there called Tainos, where it's controversial whether they were all wiped out. People are trying to assert themselves as having that indigenous heritage and indigenous genetics and wanting compensation from the government from that, and it's creating a big problem because it's just tough to prove. So not going there right now, Leon. I'm discussing a big topic which is important to you guys in Norway, because I've seen a lot of Norwegian men, right? Norwegian men, Scandinavian men, a lot of Scandinavians, a lot of Sweden, Norwegian, guys from Holland, right? Go to places like Costa Rica, go to Colombia, go to Nicaragua, go to Venezuela, go to Brazil, right? Even to Mexico, and search out for these mail order brides or these companions, friends with benefits, and or something else. It is a worldwide phenomenon. So when we say the passport bros, it just isn't African American men or here from the United States. It's not. It's all men from the United States, all types of men from the United States, and it's all men worldwide that are engaging in both. Let's just call it what it is: this sort of sex trade. And I don't know if I'm going to get banned from saying that, but they engage in that sex trade, and I would say relationship or sexual tourism, or mail order bride, like seeking a mail order bride. All of it has, they can be connected, but they are different. There, again, there are successful mail order brides out there. I have a neighbor here, for example. He's Polish. He recently is with a Ukrainian woman. The woman is his own age. She's beautiful. She's taking care of him. They met online. He went to Poland. She was there with her family. He was there. They got to romance each other in Poland. He decided to marry her. He brought her here to the United States, and they're happily ever after. Yep, someone might say she's just after his money. She's leaving a war-torn country, that she just wants papers and documents, etc., etc. But he's happy. She's providing him with the home. They seem very, very genuine, happy couple. At least they seem that way right now. It might be different, but I've seen this again in Canada, where a lot of Canadian men have Filipino and or Thai wives, and the relationship is good, but we don't know. I don't know long term how those relationships have turned out. So going back to number two, where what your expectations are, and for them to be realistic, is important, because will a woman use you to get your citizenship in your respective country and then divorce you or leave you? Yes, that will occur. I don't know the numbers on will it happen, but it is potentially there. So that's why having expectations, being precautious, and being in the right context, or establishing the right context for yourself and your relationship, is important. So have some coffee. You'll feel better as we're talking about this depressing shit. One piece of advice that I can give, and I would give all these passport bros, is engaging in these behaviors is not necessary when you go to these countries. You will find in places like Colombia, in places like Costa Rica, that when you go out and you don't have to go to a club. You could just go to one of these activities. You could go on a canoeing trip. You could go on to a trip to a waterfall. You could go on a hike. You could go on a boat to see some turtles or to go snorkeling. You could go on an ATV ride. You can go on a jet ski ride. When you engage in these activities, or you could just do something simple and walk around town, walk around downtown, go to the market, go check, just checking stuff out. You will find that a lot of times somebody who's decent, like a woman, will engage you, right, and talk to you, flirt with you, that you can actually just start a relationship with naturally, like you would here in the States, right? It's the same thing, right? If you want to meet someone, you don't have to go to a bar, you don't have to go to the club. Usually, it's somebody that's compatible with you, that's into similar interests that you have, that is also searching for a partner and may share similar values to you, are doing the same things you are, right? And I not mean just going to the store and getting food, not that kind of similarities, right? Like if you want to go to the grocery stores and meet somebody, but when you're out there jogging, when you're at, you don't always want to do it at the fitness center. I know a lot of people, it seems like the fitness center has become the pickup spot for young people. I mean, yeah, you have a similar interest there, right? But it might be at a concert. You might be, rock climbers together, or at the beach, right? You might be at, a restaurant. Like you go to a restaurant. One thing that is very interesting, and I find funny, is women go with women to a restaurant constantly, and men don't do that with each other. But it's okay to do that. You guys can go to a restaurant, you sit down, you look around, and you're going to be surrounded by single women, or women that might have boyfriends or husbands, but you're going to be surrounded a lot of times by women that are there, right, in the same dining areas you are, that are single, right, that are looking to meet somebody. So that's really what's, to me, is important, is when you go on your vacation, enjoy your vacation. Do not make your vacation a part of sex tourism. I think you're going to fall into the trap of losing a lot of money, potentially compromising your health and safety, potentially being arrested or in violation of the law, right? And or accosted, abused, victimized, turned into a victim, and robbed as well, right? So there's more negatives than positives. And that should lead anyone to not engage in the behavior. Are you going to do that? That's up to you. Like, is it okay? Not is it okay, but are there areas or parts of where this is safe and you're going to be okay? Yeah, people have done it, right? I'm going to just argue that spending your money on that activity and in this sort of way when you're on a vacation, I think is a sort of a fool's objective, right? You would have been better off spending that additional $150 getting a better hotel. You would have been better spending that additional $100 going on a nice boat trip, or another activity, right? Like going to the rainforest, going to the hot springs, going to you could spend that money better going to a better restaurant, right? Going to, say a better restaurant for yourself, or going even to another country, right? Say you're in, or another city. Say you're in Cartagena, Colombia, for example. You could end up going to Bogota, which isn't very far away. Like, I'm going to take that $100, or you could go to some other place in Costa Rica that has R&L in Costa Rica instead of just saying Jaco, right? Or San Jose. You're going to go to another part of the country that has something like beautiful for tourism, whether ecotourism or temple or anything else. Like if you're in Asia, right, you don't have to stay in the Philippines, or you could go to an island in the Philippines as opposed to engaging in what you're engaging in. You don't have to stay in Manila. You could use that extra money. You're going to go take a boat to a private island, and you're going to stay in a nice bungalow, and you're going to spend $100 on a fishing charter, right? You should spend that money enhancing your experience with the cultures and activities that are gainful for your life, that are sustenance for your existence, rather than the short-term sexual experience that you might gain from something else. And I think that's the biggest mistake that all these people, as well as tourists, fall in. And it's a shame that that is the case, because when you think about it, it ends up being a lot more money. You're not spending more than just $100. You're spending more than $200. If you're engaged in this, the something else quite a bit, it can become addictive. It becomes extremely costly at that point, and very draining on your resources. No matter how wealthy you are, with some wealthy people it doesn't matter, but it's money that's not as well spent, that's not as efficient and giving and memorable, right? Because then your memories are yourself, right? Of you with something something or something else somewhere that you can't really talk about with anybody. Whereas if you spent that money on improving your experience with that country and that culture, you'll have something that you could have and share for a lifetime. You could be like, oh, look, take photos of you in the temple here, or photos of you underneath the waterfall, or photos of you catching the giant fish, catching the marlin in the boat that you went a all-day charter for, or snorkeling, right? Like you have a photo of yourself, petting a turtle or whatever it might be, right? Even if it's, for example, you go to Thailand, rather than get a massage from some seedy person in some room, you take a seminar on how to give a Thai massage, or you take a cooking class in Thailand, right? You take a cooking class, or you rent a motorcycle and you take a small trip renting that motorcycle. And you have to be careful of doing that stuff, because there's scams, right, on the mopeds and motorcycles. There's scams everywhere when you travel, and doing your research on them and protecting yourself, just like the same with women and engaging in that area, you have to protect yourself. And I can't get over that and stress that enough. And I'm not trying to tell people to be paranoid, but yes, have your dukes up, be prepared. People are there. You are a cash cow. You are someone's cash cow, and they are looking to take every penny that's possibly they can from you, or what they can from you. If not everything, they still want something. Everything is a barter. Everything is, you're in relationships for exchange. And that's with some of the men too. A man might come up to you, hey, I could get you this, I could get you that, you want this and this and that. They come by, they might even bring you a beer and be like, hey, what's up? And they want to be your buddy, but really what they want you to do is they want to be your buddy for pay too. Like, hey, I took you here, I told you to go here, can you help me? My family's doing tough. Can you spare $10, $20 for me? Right? I'm having some issues. My kid's going to be going to school, and they will hit you up on stuff like that. They'll try to make you feel bad and try to get some money from you. So it's not just the women, right? The men will also try to exchange something for you. So just be on the lookout for that, or be willing to understand that, right? Like, I understood that. My brother understood that. For example, we went on a trip, and a guy took care of us, right? Like, got us the nice table at the restaurant. We went to the nice places. We fed him. Like, I did that last time I was in Costa Rica. I went to a museum with my driver. He was my private driver, not necessarily my security, but he was my driver. I didn't have to Uber any place. I had my own private driver. He took me to my friend's house. He took us to certain places. I had a driver, which helps in terms of the security, right? Someone knows that is independent, where I'm at constantly, where we're going constantly, right? And if something happens, whether to the authorities or with that person, there's somebody legitimate that I know doesn't have anything to do with the person I'm visiting with, right? He's not in collaboration with that person. He's my driver, right? That I have as a witness and protection. And of course, that person that, hey, you want to go eat this? I know this place, seafood place over here. Oh, you want to go to the coffee farm? I'll take you to the coffee farm tomorrow. We'll go there. Right? Oh, there's 2 hours away. I know this beautiful campsite where they have a beautiful stream that you could hike in. Right? So that's what I did there. And I knew what I was paying for. At the end of the trip, I gave him more than enough money that I would have given to an Uber, and then cash on top of it. And I knew I was doing that. Right? So I was aware of that. I accounted for that ahead of time. And it was just better for me and easier for me. Although, was it probably more expensive? Probably, but still, just the experience. And when I go back, I still have a possibility as a friend, as a driver, if he's still doing the Uber and driving and chauffeuring, or he could lead me to somebody else that could help me out, right? So that relationship is still there. So, I can still communicate him now on WhatsApp, and he still hits me up. He still hits me up. How's it going? Are you coming here anytime soon? I'm always here, et cetera, et cetera. He still checks in occasionally, which is really cool. some of the women do too, right? So that's important as well too, like using, the proper communication tool and confirming that it's not a burner phone, because a lot of a lot of people will use a burner phone, right? Even in other countries, they have those burner phones. If you don't know what burner phones, it's like a phone that's going to be discarded because it's being utilized for illegal or nefarious activity. So, that is a case. So you have to be aware that that occurs. So you might not always have, oh, I have their number. No, you don't have their number. You have a generic number that's no longer valid, or that somebody else is using. Because that's the other thing. A lot of times, a lot of these women could be using the same phone, right? And that's the other thing a lot of people don't realize, is that there are conglomerates or groups of these women that use the same phone, use the same location, may live in the same house, and that are also communicating with each other as you're communicating with them, as in multiple women, that they are aware of you and they're working you. They're working angles of you, gleaning information that you provide. The other one is that one is sharing with all the others that you're hitting on Tinder or one of your apps, et cetera, so that they gain an idea of who you are, where you're from, how much money you might be, where your hotel room is, right? So they develop a profile of you, and they're profiling you for various things. Potentially, yeah, you could potentially meet with them for something else, but realize that you are a mark, right? That you are a mark at that point, and that something wrong can happen to you. But to avoid all this, or and to better enjoy your travel experience, my recommendation is to don't be a passport bro. Be a gentleman, a passport gentleman. Be a traveler, someone that has a measurement of sophistication and honor of the culture and the people, right? Be focused on that aspect of your trip, your vacation, of learning something about the country that you're visiting, engaging in of something of value about the country and people that you are visiting, right? Engaging in something exciting for yourself that's going to provide a positive memory to you, that you're going to be, wow, that was so much fun. I went out of my way to do something like that. I didn't think I could do that, right? That's going to be far better than, oh my God, I slept with a woman there that I never would have had in my own country. Like, I would never have a woman like that, because in reality, that's just an illusion anyways, right? It's a pay for play system, and the play is not enduring. It's not lasting, right? It's beyond, it's short term and worse, right? So my recommendation is to not be a passport bro, to not seek out a mail order bride, to not go to these countries looking for something else, but to go there and not necessarily establish yourself, but to coordinate, to complement, to explore a different place better, right? Explore yourself and let yourself take part more genuinely and authentically in a country, right? Like, take a cooking class, take an art class, go to the museums, go to, visit the train stations, visit the monuments that are there. And in that process of enjoying your time, you're going to find someone, whether they're a native of that country or from someone else, that may want to spend time with you. And I think that's more fruitful, more genuine, more enduring, and more lasting than being a passport bro, seeking a mail order bride, or engaging in something else. So that's all I'm going to say for my coffee talk today. If you've made it this far, you are about better. I appreciate anybody that might listen to this stuff. Be safe out there. Remember that to do your research. Remember to, besides your research, do your research. Stay safe, right? Know your surroundings. Know who you're dealing with. Stay out of illicit activities. Do not go to a foreign country looking for drugs. Do not go to a foreign country looking to fight or to be aggressive with people. Do not go to these countries looking for something else, right? If you're out after midnight, you're out at 1 o'clock and you're walking the streets, you are a target, you are in danger, and you are putting yourself at unnecessary risk. There's no need to do that. Plan ahead. Plan activities for yourself ahead so that you already know, hey, I got to be in bed by 11 because I got to wake up at 4:30 because we got a 5 o'clock shuttle to this beach, or we have a 5 o'clock shuttle to this waterfall, or to this volcano, or to this one town, right? You're going to a different town because you're going on a cigar trip, right? A cigar tour, right? Again, plan those things rather than plan to have something else or to meet somebody that you met online or that you met on Tinder from a different country, and you're going to enjoy your vacation better, as well as have a lot more memories to share with your friends and or family, as well as for yourself. So if you've made it this far, you are about better. I appreciate everybody coming on in. Look out for, we're going to have some tips later on. Continue with the coffee with the About Better. I'll be here most mornings while I can. But thank you so much. If you made it this far, you're about better.